All right. Hi, everyone. I am Katina Miner with Kentucky Legal Aid. I'm the advocacy director in Bowling Green, and I have my friends from across the state with me today. Evan Smith, the advocacy director at AppleRed, Stephanie Langeth, who works on public benefits and many other cases at Legal Aid of the Bluegrass, and Andrew Chandler from Legal Aid Society based out of Louisville. And we're here today to provide just some overview information about a lot of changes that took effect January 1 and will impact people who are filing for unemployment benefits. Unfortunately, most of this is not good news for people who are out of work, but we want to make sure people are aware of where to turn when they need help. So that's what we'll talk about first. I'm going to pass the mic over to Stephanie, who will tell us about how to get help from us at Legal Aid if you're dealing with these issues.
All right. Thank you, Katina. Every county in Kentucky has an assigned legal aid office. Kentucky has 4 different programs serving different areas of the state. Each of our programs serves low-income Kentuckians who could not afford to hire private attorneys. Our services are free. We can help with civil legal issues. This includes assisting people with some unemployment appeals. In particular, we can help if you are struggling to access unemployment benefits that you have been approved to receive. We can also help if you believe you were unjustly denied benefits and you need to file an appeal. During the pandemic, we helped thousands of Kentuckians access their unemployment insurance benefits when the system was flooded with applications. You can find which program serves you at lsc.gov. This map shows our 4 programs and the territories we cover. We'll share our websites and phone contact information for each program in the comments. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us if you need help with your unemployment claim. We will screen your situation and help if we can. Please remember, it's especially important to contact us right away if you get a letter denying your claim, because you have a limited amount of time to appeal a decision.
Thanks, Stephanie. So that's how you can find help from us and the attorneys we work with at various legal aid offices across the state. Evan, can you talk a little bit more about how claimants can get help from the actual unemployment office?
Yeah, I'm happy to do so, Katina. So again, although we at Legal Aid are certainly happy to help out people with their unemployment benefits when we can, often, especially for simple type problems, the better way for workers and benefit claimants to do it is just directly through Kentucky's unemployment office. So a lot of people are somewhat familiar with how to work with the unemployment office. But again, there's been a lot of changes both during the pandemic and as we've been coming out of the pandemic. So we just wanted to give an update on the best and normal ways to do so. So the first thing is that for those of you that are used to using computers, if you can get onto the Kentucky Career Center's website, there's really a lot of great options there, and that's a lot of times how the unemployment office really prefers that workers you send documents to them and other things. And so if you go to kcc.ky.gov, or often I just go to a search engine like Google and search for Kentucky Career Center, then you'll get to this website that you can see here. And so there'll be, there's this yellow tab that will come up at the top that talks about getting appointments. And so there's the ability to get phone or in-person appointments at 13 different locations in Kentucky. And so when you click on the unemployment benefits and do select appointment, once you click through a few more prompts, you'll get to the place where you can make an appointment at any of these. For example, today is Friday, January 27th, and I looked at it earlier, and there were plenty of appointments for next Monday. So you can usually get in pretty quickly these days. And again, depending on just whether phone or in person is better for you, then that gives you the option. The other thing I mentioned is that while there are these 13 locations that are known as the hub locations, there's also other locations that, depending on where you live, may be closer or more convenient for you. I mean, for example, my hometown is Whitesburg, Kentucky, and although it doesn't have a hub location, Hazard, Kentucky would be the closest hub. There is a small unemployment office in Whitesburg that you can walk into and can handle many of these services. One thing that often is helpful for people to go to the unemployment offices to handle are you have to do identity verification these days, and they use a service that they call ID.me. That's ID.me. And it can be really hard for a lot of people to do this, especially if you don't have a computer at home and are trying to do this using your phone. It can be hard. And so for a lot of people, going in person to one of the unemployment offices and using one of the kiosks and having some staff members there that can help you through the process often ends up being a way to get past that barrier and prove that you are who you are and get past that step of the unemployment claim process. The other thing is that, for a long time, people mostly contacted the unemployment office through their phone line. You can still use that number. It's 502-564-2900. And they're open from Mondays through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now, a lot of you all probably recall that during the height of the pandemic, there was just such a volume of calls that telephone number often didn't work very well for people. It's not as bad now as it was a couple of years ago, but still keep in mind that there are times when the call volume is high, and so you might have to call, wait on hold. And the main advice that I'd give about that is that it's better if you call earlier in the day, because then you have to wait and hold, you can get in line. If you call towards the end of the day, if the line is already long, sometimes you don't even get to wait in line. Your call just cuts off, because they're not going to have you wait in line for someone that you're never going to be able to actually talk to because it'll be too late. So I hope this has been helpful to kind of let people know how that we often advise people in terms of how to contact the unemployment office. But again, as you're doing this, if you encounter some roadblocks, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us at Legal Aid.
Thanks, Evan. That's really useful information, especially because I know all of us at Legal Aid have heard about some issues that folks have had sort of navigating the system and frustrations. So knowledge about how to make those appointments and how to get help with ID.me is super helpful. So we haven't heard from Andrew yet. Andrew, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us a little bit of an update about what has changed since January 1 and what folks who are out of work should expect when they're filing claims this year. And going forward, I guess, too.
Thank you, Katina. There are three major changes that I'm going to be talking about today that were brought on by House Bill 4. The first change, to state it somewhat bluntly, is just fewer benefits. The number of weeks for which you'll be entitled to unemployment benefits is now tied to the state average unemployment rate. Currently, that's fixed at 12 weeks, which is much less than what people were seeing during the course of the pandemic. And it is reduced from the 26-week general period that was under previous state law. So right now, the maximum is 12 weeks to be receiving unemployment benefits, and that rate is locked in when you file a claim for unemployment. The second change is that there is a broader definition of suitable when searching for employment. So after 6 weeks on an unemployment claim, the new definition for what is considered suitable will sort of step into the fold. And what that means is that, like, for example, your suitable wage is going to now be deemed to be a little over half of what you made in your previous job, which is about 120% of the calculated unemployment insurance benefit rate. And additionally, that job will only have to be, or it'll have to be within 30 miles of your residence, or it could be completed remotely. So for example, going back to the wage issue, if you were previously earning $25 an hour, the state now considers $13.50 to be a suitable rate of pay for the new job that you're seeking. And third and lastly, there are increased work search requirements as you are trying to claim unemployment benefits. The claimants must engage in more work search activities, and you'll have to respond to random audits to ensure that those activities are in fact approved by the state. Remember, you have to complete 5 unique verifiable activities per week, and you should be sure to report them as you are claiming benefits. There are a couple exceptions. There's one for union and hiring halls. There's exceptions for those with a definite return to work date within 16 weeks, and there's an exception for folks on strike. The verification form, in order to submit the proof of those 5 activities, is available on the KCC website. You'll need to print that form, complete it, and scan it back to the state. It's also critical that you try to keep a copy for yourself to have in your records. We have not yet seen, and I want to make sure we emphasize, we have not seen how these will be reported on the online claims filing system. So be sure to follow these instructions carefully and ensure that you're doing right by all of the reporting requirements and that you're mindful of the window in which you'll be receiving unemployment benefits.
Thanks, Andrew. And those slides that we're showing, all of those flyers that summarize these new changes are available on the unemployment website. And actually, I can't remember if it showed it clearly, but when you get there right now, there's a pop-up, and if you click the button, it'll take you to an overview of all these changes. They also have some videos if you might be an auditory learner and learn better. There it is. Thanks, Evan. If you click that little more button on the home screen of the Kentucky Career Center webpage, there it is. That'll take you back to that information if you need to see it in more detail. So speaking of more detail, Evan, can you tell us or share with folks kind of best practices or tips about what claimants should do to make sure they're complying with these new rules?
Sure. So the main thing that I would say is that anytime you file a claim, then they require you to check a box that says that you've read this document that they call the Rights and Responsibilities Manual. And so you can kind of see what the cover of this looks like there. And again, I really just want to emphasize that this document is critically important if you're claiming unemployment benefits. It's 44 pages long. It feels, a lot of it might not seem relevant to you. What I can say, though, is that unemployment benefits are worth it to claim. But if you are going to claim them, it's also worth your time to read through this and at least orient yourself to the parts that are relevant to you. Because this really, this is the state telling you what they're going to expect from you. And so often when there are misunderstandings about what you need to do to be able to claim your benefits under these new rules, the state's going to assume that you've looked at this. In fact, they're going to say, didn't you check that box when you filled out your claim? So I really just want to emphasize that the best thing you can do is go through this. And, we can't, and nor would it be, very interesting for you all for us to go through all 44 pages of this. There's some videos on the Career Center's website where they read through a lot of these details. But the main thing I'd say is, find this document, make sure you're looking at the most recent version. Sometimes if you Google this, old versions come up, but I think the most recent version was revised for January 2023. So especially because, as Andrew said, those rules just changed a few weeks ago. You want to make sure you're looking at the current one. And then one specific thing that I want to mention, as Andrew said, there's going to be a lot more requirements for showing your work search activities. Again, they're going to have to be 5 per week, and there's going to be a requirement that the state go back and audit what people are filling out for their work search activities. So you want to make sure that you've got documentation of the job that you're applying to, interviews you're going to, those sorts of things. And so there's a page in this Rights and Responsibilities that lays out what the state expects from people and examples of the type of documentation that you'd want to have. Now, in terms of how to keep this documentation, if you just want to keep a paper folder somewhere and have copies of all these, that's certainly fine. But also, for some people, taking pictures of these with their cell phone, storing them in some type of cloud drive like Google Drive or iCloud or, whatever service you might use, that can also be a good convenient thing, because especially, if you're moving, if you were to have a flood or a tornado, there's many things that can cause it to be hard to keep papers in a folder like that for a long period of time. So, having a backup, an online resource, if that works for you, might make that a lot easier if, 6 or 9 months from now, the state comes back and wants to see copies of those applications that you filled out. The other thing that I really want to emphasize is that anytime you get a denial, or if you were to have a problem with this audit requirement, Kentucky has a very broad right to seek a hearing of any type of determination that gets issued in your unemployment claim. So you generally have 30 days to ask for a hearing from a determination. And so, if you get a denial that you think is wrong, you have to invoke your rights during that time period, and then you'll get a referee hearing. And then even if you do end up having that referee hearing and it doesn't go your way, there's additional appeal rights. And you want to pay close attention during this whole process, not just to the mail that you get, but also what comes into your inbox. You want to make sure, for example, that your inbox isn't full, that you're getting emails from the state. And then the other thing that really comes up frequently and when we help people is these deadlines are very important. And if you can try to stay on top of those, then it's much more likely that you're going to get your benefits on time and not have to go through a lengthy appeal process.
Thanks, Evan. That is also very helpful information. And I know this might be a lot to digest. So if folks have questions, I just want to stress again that all of us at the 4 different programs we work at, Legal Aid of the Bluegrass, Kentucky Legal Aid, AppleRed, and Legal Aid Society, work on these issues, and we'll be happy to help folks if they are encountering problems. So check the information we have below about how to get in touch with us, and thank you for your time.